Oh, wait. Oh, God damn it. I hit the wrong button. Okay, go ahead.
Welcome to the market recap presented by Tackle Trading. Get in the game.
Good afternoon, Tackle Traders, and hello, YouTube. This is Frank coming to you with the market recap for Monday, August 27th. Bulls definitely had a day, didn't they? As the NASDAQ broke out, the S&P carried over big time in through its break on Friday. So let's get right down to it. Before we do, no S&P 500 companies are reporting earnings after the close today, but you do have Best Buy and Tiffany & Company pre-market tomorrow. So still some retail companies to report. Keep an eye on that. Retail did not have a particularly great day. Maybe some good earnings can spice it up a little bit over there. But there were plenty of other things that did have a pretty good day. Let's start off here with the S&P 500. Of course, Friday we were able to close above resistance, above that all-time high. Tremendous follow through today as pretty much people just bought and bought and bought, and that's what you love to see after a bullish breakout, of course. We love to see that break. We love to see that follow through. Of course, always remember, we hope it goes straight up. If we have any, prolonged the SPY or just generally speaking, we probably want it to go straight up, and it might for a bit. But remember what this pattern really suggests is now that we're above resistance is now showing hold as support for us. Cam, I think I got you on the mic. Looking over at the NASDAQ, certainly another nice clean break over on the NASDAQs. Again, love to see that happen. It's been kind of gathering momentum to close out last week, push through here very strongly today. So very good stuff going on in tech, in the S&P, in the market in general, for sure. Dow Jones also had a great day, as we'll see some interesting things when we look at our materials and our industrials that are very heavily linked to the Dow Jones, but really bounced after breaking through last week, holding that break, another giant candle, big gap up on the open, strong bullish day. Of course, on the Dow, we have not broken that all-time high. We're basically in these major breakouts in the NASDAQ, in the S&P, in the Russell. They've broken these major highs. The Dow certainly has broken out, but we're still working towards that previous all-time high. So we got a little in between here and there. But let's go ahead and keep an eye on that as we if we approach that. So that certainly can be resistance level, no doubt about that. Looking at the Russell, it also carried the breakout, but there was definitely less interest here than our other indexes. Started out pretty strong, and you can kind of see this when you look at it on a 5-minute chart. We really started off strong, just like the overall market did, but really just kind of lost momentum all day long as money was flowing in to some of the bigger companies, blue chips, S&P, the tech. I don't know that it did anything bearish necessarily, but it certainly was the weakest index today. That is for sure. But overall, our breakout, of course, still remains intact over on Russell. So everything that we're seeing from a broad market point of view, technically, is pretty strong buy signals overall within the market. So love follow through on breakouts. I was complaining a little bit on Friday. I wish it would have waited until Monday. I guess I didn't need to wish that, right? So let's take a look at our sectors. Materials, definitely an interesting one. We, of course, have been in this range, baked out once, but really have been within this, this triangle for months now. Was able to not only break the upward or the downward trending line that's been acting as resistance, but also taking out that previous swing high and closing above that. I have to call that a bullish signal. We not only broke out of that channel or that triangle, but we also broke through resistance, closed above resistance. I have to call that bullish, at this point in time. If we continue to see upward momentum tomorrow, that would be a little bit of confirmation that I would be looking for. But certainly, maybe we're done with this range. Maybe. We knew sooner or later we would be done with it, right? Pretty strong candle here today, that's for sure. Energy had a pretty strong day, but did run into trouble at its 50-day moving average. It's basically kind of worked, I would say it's closed, worked back into that old trading range that it was in for the months prior to this recent breakdown, followed by the 200 bounce. I think it's, in my opinion, at least, we're back in that trading range. Certainly, past this 50-day moving average, I don't really see any technical reasons why we can't work back up towards the top. I'm going to, personally be looking for maybe a pullback and an opportunity along those lines. But I think we're seeing some pretty positive things. Certainly keep an eye on that 50, though. We've said it before. We've seen it before. It happened today. That can be a resistance level. So let's make sure we can see if we can break through that here. Certainly could be a place to sell, too. If I were on the bear side, or if I had bought in on that bounce, which I wish I did, that would be a place I'd be thinking about taking profits. So if sellers step in there, wouldn't shock me, at least some profit takers. Looking at our financials, a nice clean break as well. So much like the indexes, we were able to break through a pretty strong momentum over in the financial sector. We've watched that area be troublesome for it for quite some time. Definitely a bullish signal to be closing above resistance there. No two ways about that. Over in industrials, also a very strong day. It kind of broken out. It kind of caught its footing here late last week, gapped up with the mark on the open. And certainly, I think we can say that as of right now, this is a confirmed breakout. I really like the way this has developed from an identification point of view, because now I can say that we're supporters. I can say this little swing that we put in at the low point on, I believe it was Thursday of last week, that kind of coincides with the breakout point. That's a higher low, a little bit of a pivot. I think that's kind of the important price point from the bottom side that I'd be looking at right now. But really don't have a ton of resistance till we work closer to $79 within the industrial, 78.50, 78 in that general ballpark. We've struggled a little bit there before. You can kind of see going back in through here, but not a lot of resistance for at least a little bit over in the industrial sector. So another very strong sector today. Of course, tech, NASDAQ breaks out, tech breaks out. Things are looking very good over in the world of technology right now. That is for sure. So very strong looking chart, definitely a nice little breakout over in the technology. Now we can kind of take a look at our pullbackers. Some of our areas that have pulled back and have not quite started jumping in with the market. Of course, we have our staples that started, had a really nice run off of this last pullback, started a pullback last week. We've seen basically 3 days of a lot of indecision over in the staples. 3 dojis in a row as it looks to establish some support. Haven't really seen that upward movement, that confirmation candle just yet, but I do think from a technical point of view, it's still very interesting as a potential pullback opportunity. So we'll just have to monitor that as we move into this week. Utilities had that nice bounce on Friday, but really weren't able to carry that momentum today. We still, however, are holding that breakout point, which is very important to me, at least. That's a very important signal. So as long as we're holding that, I can't really say anything. I can't fault anybody for wanting to go long. I personally wouldn't think about going short or exiting along as long as that breakout point held. So keep an eye on that. Certainly it tried a little bit today, but there's just too many other things popping. That's for sure. Our healthcare, as always, one day, I'm going to not say this, but it remains rock solid, continues its overall strength. Of course, it technically broke out of its all-time high last Friday, carried that momentum into today. Nothing much to say. Very strong, pretty extended, but it's been pretty extended for a bit now, right? Just because something extended or looks extended doesn't mean it's got to start going down, tomorrow or anything like that. So really a lot of strength continues over in our healthcare sector. Our discretionary was able to continue its breakout from last week. Gap on the open, more upward momentum. So very technically sound from a breakout point of view over there. And of course, last but not least, our friends over in the real estate sector. Maybe. There we go. There we go. Established a little bit of a low point last week. A bit of upward momentum here today. Not a very friendly looking candle. It doesn't look like maybe that pullback was quite ready. You know, a lot of people thought it was and jumped in on Friday, and I can certainly understand that point of view. And I don't think it's done anything technically wrong, but it looks like maybe it was just a little too early for those real estate bulls of Friday. But overall, the trend does continue to look very strong. We certainly have seen some movement off of that low point. I just don't think it's quite ready, for me at least, not quite ready yet. Over in our dollar, we did something I don't like. Of course, last week we pulled back to the 50. We saw that strong upward movement on Thursday. Then Fed speak with Chairman Powell really started to create a lot of selling on Friday. We broke that support, that previous swing. That basically it looked like it had pivoted there on Wednesday with the confirmation on Thursday. We broke that. We closed below the 50-day moving average. We kind of right back into this old range, kind of below those old highs. I think right now you have to say that that's a short-term bearish signal. And I see something that's failed at resistance, so it's made lower highs. It's failed at support, at least as of right now. It's made lower lows. I don't like the way that looks as a bull. Personally, that's not the way I want to see that pattern develop. But that's where it's at right now, right? So whatever I want is whatever I want. I'm welcome to wish, but that's what I have. Gold and silver as well, continuing to kind of fight. I think, depending on your stance, I think you could argue they've kind of closed back above that floor. I wouldn't argue that. This has just been too bearish for me to want to jump right back in the first bullish signal I get. But if I were, a gold bug really looking from a bullish point of view, I'd probably be leaning towards that side of the argument as well. I do think, personally, I want to watch it develop here. If I have to miss, an upward swing here, then so be it. I'm fine with that. We still have a lot of huge downward trend. I'm not convinced that that old floor, that old support isn't going to act as resistance. Maybe I'm wrong, and that's okay. It's not going to cost me any money to sit out, right? But do continue to monitor. That price is an important level. If you are on the bullish side of things, one thing you have to like is we have technically made higher lows and technically made higher highs. So there, a little bit of bullish, stuff going on the chart right now within the longer term bearish. And there's just so many nice things, breakouts, things like that out there that I don't feel like I need to push the envelope or anything like that in any area right now. Silver, very similar. We're kind of going a little sideways here, but really our overall pattern still kind of maintains the same within our silver as well. We're kind of trying to put in a little floor. I'd like to see it try to break resistance. If I am a bull, not really much like gold, I'm going to let it play out and see where I'm at when the dust settles there. But interesting placement, and you can't argue. There's definitely been some bullish momentum in the metals for the first time in what seems like a very long time. Over in natural gas, it really kind of gave up today. We've really been seeing it struggle the last few days. It had that break early last week, then tried to run and closed, and then dojied, and then a lot of selling on Friday carried over into today. We broke support. Certainly some very bearish signals overall, and I'm not terribly surprised because of the location. We talked a lot about that $3 area as kind of a major level, or at least potentially a major level of resistance. Again, it kind of comes down to, if I'm not the only one who thought that, where were just the new buyers? And eventually the new buyers don't show up, so the sellers step in, right? So some pretty bearish signals right now on natural gas. Not a huge fan if you're a bull. Hopefully you're able to get out with some nice profits, because the opportunity was certainly there. Lastly, finishing up with crude, we certainly continue that overall upward momentum. Really, as we talked last week, now that we're back within this range, really the only challenge is that flat 50-day moving average, which, again, is in a sideways trend. I'm going to respect it, but I'm not going to expect it as much as I would in an upward or a downward trending stock to act as support or resistance. Although for the last couple of days, it has been causing us a little bit of trouble in crude. Certainly nothing really above us until we approach that $70 mark. which of course was a lot of resistance for us in the past, will certainly be something that I'll be keeping an eye on, both from a potentially short and a potentially long breakout scenario if and when we get there. So probably in the same place you are today. If you were like me and I'm just not really loving it, and I wish I would have been feeling this way a week ago, but I wasn't. So I'm just kind of on the sidelines, watching, waiting. Or you're already, have an opinion or a position on it. You're probably in the same place. We still have a lot of resistance at 70. We're still seeing that bullish momentum as we work towards it. So not a lot technically changed from where we were last Friday to close out the week. So very interesting day in the market. A lot of things breaking out, a lot of areas breaking out. Still have some interesting pullback opportunities. And just because I'm afraid or not open to or willing to do anything with the gold right now doesn't mean it's not a potential opportunity. It's just I think there's things I like better. You don't have to agree with me. Maybe you shouldn't. We'll have to wait and see. So you'll get through those watch lists, check out those, for those opportunities. There's definitely some potential breakout candidates out there. If you're behind this breakout in the overall market, there's probably going to be a lot of stocks either threatening to break out or have recently broken out. So go through your watch list tonight, see what you can find. With that, ladies and gentlemen, as always, it is certainly my pleasure, and I do appreciate everybody's time. If you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe to the Tactical Trading YouTube channel and hit that bell for notifications so you can be alerted anytime we have a new video over here at Tactical Trading. If you enjoyed the market recap, it's always helpful and appreciated if you do give it a thumbs up just to let us know we're on the right track over here. With that, happy trading, and I will see you in the next one.